but I felt crunched for time and I just kind of made decisions, which I promise you is not at all how I'm going to be doing it going forward. Um, but I wanted to talk to you guys about what has been put in place to see if you guys had any questions, comments, concerns, if we need to make adjustments for things I didn't think of, so on and so forth. So at this time, if anyone has any of those, I'd like to hear them.
I'm kind of thinking that most of the questions that I have will be covered as we go through this meeting, because I think we have those things that I'm not 100% sure of already covered in the agenda. So I kind of, I don't know, want to reserve till the end of the meeting to see if there's anything we didn't cover.
Sure, I'm making a note right now that we'll just return to this section at the very end of it in case anything does not get covered.
I feel comfortable with that.
Okay, sweet deal. So, I had it brought to my attention that we may, well, it's kind of an interesting situation. About 2.5 years ago, Sir Randall, who was king of Dragonspine at that time, came up to visit, and the idea was that that would be paid for ultimately by the 3 parks in existence at that time, Astral Winds, Loop and Moon, and Frozen Coast. The money was fronted by Pyro, and the parks had all voted to pay him back. I'm a little hazy. I remember this event. I remember this all thing because I was also Monarch in Frozen Coast at the time. But I don't remember exactly how it was decided on how the cost was going to be broken up or anything. But long story short, he contacted me a couple days ago here saying that he had never received that money. I chatted with Aurora just earlier today about it, and she said that she was under the impression it has been taken care of, and that Hadeland, you may or may not have more information on that.
So this came up about a year ago, maybe, and there was some inquiry done. I mean, it was before I was active within Amtgard, so I wasn't in leadership at the time. I mean, I remember Randall coming up, but I wasn't involved at all in the arrangements of it. I had inquired with Astriana and Goran at the time about this situation, and the information that I had was very fuzzy, and there was a lot of confusion. There didn't appear to be very good records of what was going on, and it was also prior to the formation of the principality, and so I felt as the principality monarch at the time, it was outside of sort of my ability to go back into time, right? So I didn't pursue it further, and that is the information that I have.
Okay, so Neil, can you hear us? Okay.
I'm hitting the wrong mouth. Yeah, I can hear you fine. I'm following.
Okay, you just hadn't made any comments, so I just wanted to make sure you were with us.
Just quiet tonight.
Yeah, that's cool. Just like I said, just wanted to make sure you were hearing us. Um, so what I would like to do is I would like to get you guys who are here's opinion, especially because the current monarch of the 3 parks involved are all here, on how you guys feel is appropriate for us to go forward. Because Hadeland, you're absolutely right. It's not technically a Northreach issue, as Northreach did not yet exist at the time. But one way or another, there was a promise made to Pyro that Amtgard was going to pay him back, and we never did. So I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on how you would like to proceed with that.
Well, um, I would think that we need to have some sort of like committee or task force like created to actually do some serious business research into this and figure it out. Because like while I believe that Pyro is not trying to defraud Northreach out of a bunch of money. Like, we still need to dot all of our I's and cross all of our T's. And I don't know what the numbers are, but I suspect that they're substantial, which means that we would probably need an all-thing vote to approve the expense regardless of what that team finds. If it's going to come out of Northreach money or if it's going to come out of park money at this point.
Yeah, one way or another, it's definitely an all-thing level approval. I mean, what I would like to do, actually, if we could, is to find out if we can find out how that was originally supposed to be broken up, because hypothetically, an all-thing was held in all three parks that approved that money. But I don't know. It's all a really weird situation. I think the committee's definitely a good idea.
Quick question. Which parks was that? I came in late.
Oh, hey, you made it. Are you feeling better?
I can breathe again. We'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. So the three parks involved at that time were Astral Winds, Lupin Moon, and Frozen Coast. And I'm not sure at what point you came in, but essentially, to catch you up to speed, what we're kind of covering
Oh, I know
is
about
that
the owing pyro money thing. The other thing is that if it is a substantial amount of money, we would also have to talk to him and see if we can negotiate a payment plan. That way, it's not taking huge lump sums if it is determined so out of Northreach, so that Northreach can still function.
I don't imagine that it was over $600 for a round trip ticket from El Paso or wherever Randall flew out of. So, I mean, the money is potentially available. We just need to know how much it was, and then we
Okay,
need to know.
just didn't know how much.
To pay it.
I was like,
So-
if it's $2,000, hold up, we gotta wait for a minute, you know.
So this maybe can be something that we investigate with that said committee, but the number that Pyro gave me was 800.
Okay, I mean, that's definitely a nicer number than the one that I was picturing in my head.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's about a round trip ticket from El Paso to Alaska.
and may, I guess, not require an all-thing vote at that point, depending on, I mean, how you feel about utilizing your 10% magic wand waving.
See, I don't know, and this is why this is why I wanted to bring all this to you guys, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure Pyro gets his money. But it's just the whole, like you said, Josh, about dotting I's and crossing T's is a little awkward because Northreach didn't exist at that time, and the money was approved to be spent by the other three parks, but we don't really have records of that. And so it puts us in this weird, like, limbo position where we have the approval to give him money. We're just not sure where that money's supposed to come from.
So this is what I would recommend. Let's find out what the dollar amount is. There's got to be some type of record, a bank statement that shows the expenditure or a receipt that was emailed to somebody with the itinerary or something like that. I'm assuming Pyro bought it, but I don't know if someone else could have made the travel arrangements and he just provided the funds for it. Let's contact the people that were the monarchs at the time. I mean, you're one of them, but there's two others. And then let's get our information together and then bring it to the all thing for approval, because it's a funny kind of out of the normal expenditure for us. And so we just make sure that that's an appropriate way that the membership feels to spend the funds. And then there's just no question. And it's documented and it's approved and it's all settled.
I agree. I think, this is all brand new to me, and I don't feel like I have enough detail right now to really move forward on it. Of course, I share the sentiment that we want to make sure that Pyro isn't out the money, but I think we need to learn a little bit more. I understand it's a couple of years ago, so it'll be maybe hard to find any kind of documentation, but I think that would be really good if we did find something like that.
For sure. So yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it sounds like we have a pretty solid plan here. I will contact Pyro. He did say something about his records don't show that he ever received the money, so I'll ask him what records he has and see if I can't get, like you were saying, Hadeland, a bank statement or just something that shows the expenditure. And I'm not 100% certain who the other two monarchs.
So if he can give us some type of record of when the purchase was made, we can look at the officer history document that we have, and we should be able to find out who the monarchs were. Then the other thing that we can do is we can look back through previous audit records to show if anybody has recorded a repayment of that. And I mean, if there's no repayment recorded in any of those audits, then it'd be pretty clear that he hadn't received that payment, and they'd be sort of making sure that we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's.
Right. So, yep, and I agree 100% with all that stuff. I guess the question is, who are you going to make responsible for doing that? To me, it seems like Aurora would probably be make the most sense. And then whoever else she deems necessary, I would just make her a committee head and be like, figure this out and recruit whoever you feel like you need to do that. Because we just need to make a person accountable for it so that we can make sure it gets done.
I guess in my mind that is a super appropriate for the Chancellor's Council to work on, since it's money and records and things like that, and they should, the parks that were involved, their prime ministers should be able to do that research. And then if they need to delegate to somebody else because they don't personally have the time for it, that would be okay, but that would be their responsibility.
Yeah, I'm into that. I mean, it still puts the principality, prime minister kind of at the head of that, so we have a person that can be like, whoa, what's going on with this? Let's not make Pyro sad.
Well, considering that they are the head treasurer of Northreach, it would be a logical thing to put her in charge of that.
Agreed.
You still there, Lucian? He's probably talking to Aurora right now about it, and she's irritated that she has to do a bunch of extra work.
Do we know what month the king came up at all?
I want to say it was it was in the winter. It was not over the summer. It was in the winter. And I want to say it was 2012. He stayed at my house. So I should remember. I know which house I was in, so that's how I'm trying to figure out what year it was.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yay!
So I was totally just sitting here talking, and I'm pausing occasionally, thinking, man, everyone's really quiet. And then I directly addressed a question, and that was when it occurred to me that no one could hear me. So when did you guys lose me? What was the last thing you actually heard me say?
That you were going to contact Pyro and see if he could get you an actual thing. And then you were quiet after that, and then we just kind of filled up space. Were you able to hear us?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, what we decided is that it makes the most sense for that committee or whatever to basically consist of the Chancellor's Council, which would put Aurora in charge of tracking it all down, and she can appoint or recruit or whatever, whoever else she deems necessary, / the local PMs can delegate the responsibility to someone else if they don't have the time right now. But it makes the most sense to like put a person in charge so they're accountable and we can actually get to the bottom of this, because Pyra being out any amount of money makes me sad.
I agree. Okay. That if that's what you guys want to do, I'm fine with that. And Aurora just left the room, but when she comes back, I will run that by her. I'm sure she won't mind. So yeah, that sounds like a good plan then.
I mean, did I represent like our thoughts clearly, like Rage and y'all and Helen?
You totally got that, Minibard.
Cool.
Yeah,
Totally
I
got
agree.
Yes.
All right, cool beans, guys. So the next thing that we're gonna move on to here is the change of the board of directors under the new corpora and audits. With the new corpora officially in effect, the board of directors is now made up of the monarchs, of all the monarchs, the Northreach prime minister, and then a position called the ex officiato, which is the former Northreach monarch / president of the board, who actually happens to be one of our monarchs now.
So Hadlin occupies 2 spaces at once, defying space-time again.
Yeah, essentially. But the ex officiato doesn't actually have any voting power or anything. It's just an advisor, so that's not like going to be a problem at all.
I promise to fulfill the duties of both of my positions faithfully.
We're glad to hear it.
Awesome.
So with that, one thing the board is going to need to be working on almost immediately is voting on the audits, the rating we want to give the audits before we send them off to Dragonspine. Aurora will be posting those on the board of directors voting forms Sunday night, and then we only have until Saturday, the following Saturday, to get everything voted on, sealed, and sent. So that's something we're all going to need to keep our eyes out on the forums this coming week and get our votes in so we can get all that taken care of.
Vote Ravenstone awesome so we don't get all the Reggies.
What's quorum for the BOD? Like, how many people will we need to get in on that vote for it to be good?
I'd have to look again, but I believe it's 51% of the voting members, or 50% plus 1 of the voting members.
Okay, cool.
So on the topic of audits, has everybody seen their audit? Like their local audit? Have we all been
Oh,
working
I was just informed that Atlas, Lucian, and Mara were all monarchs during the time when the king came up, if that helps at all.
That tells us who we need to talk to, so that's excellent. Thank you.
To answer your question, Hadeland, I have been talking with both Connor or Dan and Aurora, getting everything like nailed down on our end. To my understanding, all we really have left is the ledger, which is probably the most difficult / irritating part to put together, but we're getting there.
Totally got that, Minnie.
I think ours is all in and taken care of.
Ours should be as well.
Outstanding thing is is to get a rain summary together for Aurora for the Northreach one. But Mara has the Lupin Moon one all good to go, so. This is great news. we lose Lucian again?
You are super quiet, Hadeline.
Kind of seems like we lost him. You are a little bit quiet, but
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard that you were talking. You were pretty quiet, but I was also talking to Aurora. She just re-entered the room, so I was catching her up on the whole her and the chancellors being in charge of Pyro's issue. What did you say, Shelby?
I was just wondering if we had lost you.
Oh no, yeah, I was just like I said, I was just talking to her. Sorry. For the record, though, she said that sounds logical, and she's on board with that.
Yay!
Okay. Were there any further questions, thoughts, comments, concerns on the transition of the board, which is effective now, or the audits?
I guess I had a question regarding the board. Now that the board is basically the Council of Crowns +1, will we intend that our Council of Crowns meetings are all official board meetings? Or will we have those separate? Or what?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that brings me right into our next topic: schedules. And here was my thoughts on how to actually handle that. What I would, in my perfect world, what I would like to do is have, like, so tonight we had the Council of Crowns meeting at 9. We could, depending on how you guys felt about it, we could just have the Council of Crowns meeting also involve the Northreach Prime Minister, and then therefore they would just all be board meetings. We could do them at the exact same time, or we could plan them for the same night, but have the Council of Crowns meeting scheduled at one time, and then the board meeting scheduled half an hour or an hour later.
Well, considering it's kind of all the same thing at the moment, I think having it all as one meeting is a much better idea.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I've never been on the BOD before, so I don't know precisely what they discuss. Is there a significant portion of that is like closed council, like not supposed to be privy to like the general public because deals with finances or weird legal stuff?
No, not really.
Okay. I guess my only other. Sorry, go ahead.
Not actively. Once in a while, you can never be sure if something like that will or will not arise, and there may come a time when the Council of Crowns would need to have a closed, executive meeting, but it's not very common. No.
Yeah, we actually are required by Alaska state statute to act openly. So there are only I think 3 things that we can have closed sessions about, and that's litigation, real estate transactions, and there might be one other thing. So one of the things that we need to be careful about is that typically in our board meetings, we follow Robert's Rules of Orders. We have to, record all of our votes. We have to have minutes that are published and publicly available in order to be functioning within the requirements of the state of Alaska. Whereas our Council of Crowns meetings are not subject to all of those requirements. So there's something to be said for the Council of Crowns meetings, because they're meetings we can just get work done, whereas the board of directors meetings are definitely meetings where we can get work done, but there's additional sort of reporting burden associated with that. So one of the things that I was thinking that might work for us is, right now we're required to have a board meeting once a month, and we typically have our Council of Crowns meetings every 2 weeks. So what if we alternated? So the first meeting of the month is the board meeting, where we do all of our regular board meeting things, including Robert's Rule of Order and our minutes, and all of our votes are recorded and whatnot. And then the second meeting of the month is like our sort of working council meeting, where it's active discussion about things that don't necessarily need to follow that level of formality.
That actually sounds pretty good to me. What do the rest of you guys think?
Yeah, I think that makes sense because the one thing that I was going to bring up is that, like, looking back at the recordings that we've done of Council of Crowns meetings since May, not a single one of them has been underneath an hour. So, like, tacking BOD stuff onto the beginning or end of that could make those meetings reasonably insufferable.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's with me hating long meetings and always trying to keep them to an hour and failing pretty miserably.
Sorry, that wasn't like a snipe at you. It was just like a...
No, I'm just saying that, like, I'm not a long meeting person, so the fact that they go long is pretty much because they have to, not because, like, I'm drawing them out.
I think that's my bad. I'm sorry, guys.
I like the plan of going every other meeting.
Okay. I will say that in the schedule section here,
Two meetings
I
it
would.
is.
What's that, Rich?
I said 2 meetings it is. Woo!
Yeah. For the next few weeks, I would actually like to have one of these council meetings once a week, even if they're pretty short, just because some things have gone off to kind of a rocky start this reign already, and our kingdom bid year is not really a year we can afford for that to happen. So for the next couple weeks, if it's workable with you guys, I'd like to do one meeting a week. But then we can definitely go to just the 2 meetings. One of the first meeting of the month being the BOD, second being Council of the Crowns. Is Thursdays at 9 p.m. going to be pretty much a good time for everyone going forward?
It's a good time for me.
I'm good with that.
Works great for me.
Yep, I'm set.
I'll do my best. I often work on Thursday nights running classes, but there's no night that's easy for me, as I think you guys have noticed.
Well, we're glad you could
I
be
hear
here
you.
tonight.
Just had to get off the phone with my mother.
Roger. So, okay. So the plan is, just to recap, the plan is that we will have a meeting per week, probably for the rest of this month, the 2 weeks that are left, or 3, whatever. But then after this month, we will have, say, the first Thursday and then the third Thursday. The first Thursday being board, second Thursday being Council of Crowns. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep, sounds good for me.
Yeah, I just have one little caveat in there. There will be 2 Thursdays at the end of August that is while State Fair is going. So I may or may not be available for those depending upon what our volunteer schedule looks like. So I'll do what I can for those.
Roger that. And if you're not available, I will be happy to just recap you and catch you up as soon as you are available.
They got Wi-Fi at the fairgrounds. You're fine.
I can multitask like a mofo, yo.
Okay, and then the last, well, no, not the last, but the next thing that we need to set kind of a standing schedule for is which weekend every month we want to have the Northreach All thing. As far as I understand it, last reign it was the second weekend of the month, which I don't see any reason to change.
I'm with you on that.
No, I'm with you on that too. It gets us more scheduled and people more used to actually attending on that day if they want to have it.
I think for the most part, the second weekend worked pretty good. At the end, at the tail end there, it got bumped to the third weekend for a couple months. But overall, I think second weekend worked just fine.
Okay, great. Then we will continue to plan it for the second weekend going forward, and if something arises and we have to bump it to the third weekend, then we will. So now the last thing that we need to work into scheduling is planning Northreach days as we go inside. Hadeland's been talking with the manager of the Dome for Lupin Moon's park days, and we need to decide if that is where we would like to continue to have our Northreach days throughout the winter, so that is something that we can work into the schedule there. Hadeland, did you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, Brian is the general manager at the Dome, and he's been really awesome to work with. So we've been sort of hashing out the schedule for Lupin Moon. He has pretty much every Saturday available.
Crickets?
Cricket?
Can you not hear her?
Can you hear me, Hazel?
Maybe she had a real life situation involving crickets somehow.
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on with Hazel's audio, but hopefully she can hear me or figure that out.
Did I just lose connectivity? I can't hear anybody all of a sudden.
I hear you now.
Okay, while she figures that out. I've been talking to Brian. They pretty much have every Saturday available up until the end of April. So availability is there. That's going to be an option for us. The other thing that we had looked into at the end of last year was doing a day out at the Menard Center in Wasilla. So because they have the whole gigantic full soccer field, it's slightly more expensive. The Dome is $95 an hour, and the indoor turf at the Menard Center is like $195 an hour. But it's a heck of a lot more space, and also sort of, moves things around. It makes it easier in theory for Ravenstone to be able to attend. It's an hour closer to Astro Winds, which might be appealing to them. It's also an hour.
Hadlin, I can barely hear you, and I heard you say something in reference to the Menard Center and how much it costs an hour. I think Ravenstone's actually going to stay in the gym this year to gain funds, because we actually made money being in the gym that we were in, so that next year we can do the Menard Center.
Oh yeah, I was just talking in regards to having Principality Days, because we wouldn't be able to fit 75 people in the Borough Gym, but we could look into if that was something that we were interested in doing, having Principality Days, not just in Anchorage, but moving to maybe having one in Ravenstone or something. The Menard Center would be more capable of handling volume.
Personally, I think the idea of having a floating Principality Days, so that, even if you may have transportation issues, there's going to be one in your local park area, so you have that experience of being able to hang out with some of the people that you wouldn't normally hang out with, except at like Dungeon Crawl or Solstice Wars or Wolf's Cry. So I think having a moving Principality Day every once in a while would be good for us.
I agree. I really like that idea of having it kind of rotate around, and I understand Anchorage is definitely the local or the middle point for everybody, but it'd be nice to have it down here and up in all the other three parks.
Yeah, I guess one thing we just need to, I think, be really aware of is, like, it's super imperative that we meet that 75 attendance. And we haven't been doing that lately. So, wherever we're going to be able to meet that number, I'm totally in favor of.
Yeah, in theory, I really like the idea of the Principality Day rotating park to park to park. But as far as actually trying to make sure 75 plus people make it, I really think we're going to have the best luck doing that with it being in Anchorage or the Valley, because that's kind of centralized for everyone. We are having the first Principality Day at the Ninilchik State Fair, which is down here. And that'll be, I guess, a one gauge for us to see how it goes having it elsewhere. But the reason it's always been in Anchorage is it's the most central location for the state as a whole.
Well, the cool thing actually about, like, if we can make the Ninilchik Fair Principality Day meet that 75, then we'd have one there. I mean, regardless, we'll have one there in August, and then we have Dungeon Crawl, which is again in that area in February, and also a Principality Day. And so, like, we would have September, October, November, December, January. So 5 Principality Days in between that, which we could split between Ravenstone and Lupin Moon areas, and kind of bounce back and forth.
Yeah, that's true. And then we have Solstice Wars, I assume, is going to continue to be a thing in Astral Winds.
Right. I mean,
Gosh, I hope so. Ravenstone had a blast the last time we were up there.
So that's at least one event up there. So, I mean, hypothetically, yeah, we are getting the Principality Day moving around. It just might not move every single month. It might not be a different place.
Which, I mean, as much as I would love to have Principality Days up here more often, the reality of it is it makes more sense to have it more often in the places where there are more people.
Exactly.
It looks better on paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and this year we're all about looking good on paperwork. Well, in practice too, but definitely on paperwork.
Yeah, those numbers become, like, super massively important for the next 12 months.
Definitely. So, I guess what we need to decide is, do we want to look at for the Northreach days that are not, Solstice Wars, Dungeon Crawl, the Ninilchik State Fair, for just the other regular Northreach days? Do we want to bounce back and forth, like alternating Anchorage the Valley, or do we want to do mostly Anchorage with a couple of the valleys thrown in there, mostly the Valley with a couple Anchorages? What do you guys want to do?
I think Hadelin had a good point about being sure that our numbers are up, so maybe we should try one in the Valley, and if the numbers are good, then we should plan more. But if the numbers really are better if we do it in Anchorage, I think for this year it's probably better to stick, for the majority of our events to be in Anchorage, because that's where our numbers are high.
Our numbers are high there, but Ravenstone also has a decent amount of numbers now. We have anywhere between 20 to 22 people signing in on a regular basis, as well as having upwards of 24 people for our ANS nights.
I think the other thing to consider is that it is essentially twice as expensive to do it at the Menard Center. But that doesn't mean that there aren't.
No, that's fair. I just wanted to point out we had good numbers.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, otherwise it wouldn't even be something we could consider, right? I mean, but yeah, with the numbers that Ravenstone is already drawing in, I mean, and those are typically what we've seen is that those numbers that Ravenstone brings in are typically not able to travel. But so if we can bring it to them, they can they can really help raise that attendance number, which is great. So I think it's probably wise to, like, what if we did the September Principality Day in Ravenstone outside, where we don't have to spend the $195 an hour for the Menard Center. That would also mean that we could like piggyback that on to maybe the weekend after the fair, because Ravenstone will have a huge influx of new people excited about Amtgard right after the fair. So that will already help our numbers, and it would be great. Like Lupin Moon does the newbie barbecue. It's awesome to have a bunch of people there helping the new people fall in love with Amtgard.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds like a really good idea.
Hi.
Am I correct in thinking that the number needs to be 75? Is that the magical number?
That is the minimum. We'd like to shoot for 100 because we're ambitious. But yes, you are correct that 75 is the actual required number.
Gotcha. I think that Icefire Bay is in the same position of having people who mostly are not going to be able to travel very far. We do also draw in a large number of local people. The kicker is, I am a little worried about whether or not I feel like there's a high expectation if we're hosting up to 75 people, and I guess I get nervous about falling on our face down here.
Well, right now, coming up here in just a couple weeks, we have the Ninilchik State Fair Principality Day, which is roughly in your guys' neighborhood. It's, I guess, kind of halfway between Frozen Coast and Icefire Bay, but compared to the rest of the state, that's closer to your guys' neck of the woods. But there will also be, anytime the Principality Day is held wherever it's held, you'll have the Principality officers more or less running the show as well, with the assistance of the local officers. So, I think you'd be all right. But at this point in time, I don't know that we're going to look into having any in Homer just for logistics and travel sake.
Works for me.
Not that we don't love you guys.
Because we totally do. The other thing I was thinking about is how to work like the mid-reign celebrations in with Principality Days. And so, like, I was thinking maybe November, and I'm totally spitballing here. I have not talked to Rage about this at all, so I'm totally fine with her saying she's not interested in it, and I'm not putting anybody on the spot. But, like, what if, like, Lupin Moon and Ravenstone did a joint mid-reign, which was also a Principality Day, so that we'd have a pretty good chance of having high attendance from Ravenstone, high attendance from Lupin Moon, and then also with the Tour de North that we've done in the past, which I believe we are intending to do again. That would really incentivize people to travel to that as well.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Again,
I
talk
would
to
be
Rage
down with
about
that.
so.
You're perfect. Apparently, my speakers are really quiet. I'm gonna try to find some headphones or something.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to talk real loud, but I don't want to blow everybody else's eardrums out.
You're not gonna. You're still fairly quiet here also. I can hear you. It's just fairly quiet.
So that's one of those things where, we could maybe look at, like, I don't know, a middle ground and consider hosting it in Eagle River. I don't know. We haven't done that before when Ravenstone and Lupin Moon have done joint things. It's either been in the valley or in Anchorage. But I think for really strengthening the relationships between the two parks, having a joint mid-reign would be really awesome. And then also having it be the Principality Day would add a little extra oomph to it. and I think we could make the numbers pretty well in that type of event. And we could do that either at the end of October or the beginning of November. So depending upon what other options there are, we can kind of use that to I don't know, work for us.
I'm gonna have to say no on the joint mid-reign. There's still a little bit of animosity towards the mid-reign that happened a couple years back. So our people really just want to do their own mid-reign and strengthen, our park as a whole. I don't mind doing, co-events every once in a while, but the mid-reign has been a big thing for us up here, for our new regent, and they're just trying to get settled in what they're doing right now.
I guess part of my thought on that is it'd be really good because we are rebuilding the good working relationship to potentially utilize that event specifically, which has been a point of contention in the past, to demonstrate how awesome it could be. And I feel like, the officers that we have in place right now could really collaboratively make that super cool. But totally respect that, again, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about that. And
Yeah.
it's spitballing at this point in time from my standpoint.
Well, you and I can spitball some more later with our regents and see how they feel about it, because I'd like to have them involved in the discussion instead of making a decision right now.
Yeah, I'm not calling for a decision, just talking about options.
Okay. If they're down with it, I'm okay with it, but I know that Ravenstone has been a little hesitant because of past interactions. So I just wanted to build us up and then maybe go forward with a co-event and have something like Dungeon Crawl, Wolves Cry, something like that, for our park. I know that they've been really crazy about trying to do something big for our park, out in Ravenstone, because Loop and Moon started Wolves Cry, of course Frozen Coast started Dungeon Crawl, and uh, Astral Winds has their Solstice Wars. Everybody's been talking about trying to create something, out in Ravenstone that everybody can come to and hang out at too. So that might be something we look into in the future.
Totally. Makes a lot of sense.
So, for we've sort of birdwalked here, but as far as scheduling things with Brian at the Dome, I suppose we're gonna wait a little bit, or do we have a limited time to get this penciled in? Or
He hasn't indicated that we're super short on time. But so right now, what I'm working out with him is 2-hour chunks of time at the Dome for Loop and Moon. If we want more than that for Principality Days, if we want 3 hours, um, we'll just have to give him a firm answer on which days we'd like extended to 3 hours as opposed to two. What I found is that Principality Days need 3 hours to organize that number of people. Um, so I don't know at what point in time sort of we run out of that option to extend, but I would say the sooner we can come up with that answer, the better.
absolutely. So I guess, is it gonna crunch us on time with him too much if we wait and see how numbers go for the September day in Ravenstone, and then make a decision after that?
Yeah, I would think we would want to. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on when we do it, right? If we're doing it like the second weekend in September, that might still be okay. I can also just shoot him an email and ask him, what his feelings are on it.
Okay, because I mean, ideally, because if holding him out in Ravenstone is going to get us more numbers than in Anchorage, then that's something I'd like to pursue. But also, like you said, the Menard Center is like twice as expensive. So if it's not going to make much difference, then it might behoove us more to just stay in Anchorage. So I'd kind of like to see how the numbers reflect doing it in Ravenstone in September.
Sure. Something else I think, what might be wise for us to consider. for Principality Days to encourage attendance is like if you're a dues paid member, you don't have to pay site fees at Principality Days or something like that. I mean, I haven't looked at the budget to see if it supports that, but that'd be a cool incentive for maybe people who have a hard time playing indoors because of having to pay that weekly site fee. That if they've been dues paid, then they just show up and play.
Yeah, that could potentially be cool. We'd have to, like you said, we'd have to look at the budget and see if it supports that. But yeah. All right. So I'm also a fan of keeping meetings to an hour, which we already will have failed at because we only have 3 minutes. So unless there's something else to discuss here, I'd like to get moving on.
So are we agreeing that we'll schedule that September Principality Day in Ravenstone the weekend after the fair ends?
I mean, as long as Rage is okay with that, that sounds good to me.
I'm down with it. Sounds great. I would love to have a Principality Day out there. That'd be awesome.
Cool. So we've got August and September for Principality Days lined out, and then we just have to figure out moving forward then.
Yeah, right after we see what the numbers do in what is that, the first week in September or second week in September? And then we can get with Brian or the Menard Center, whoever we want to get with after that. If you
Sounds good.
could, Hadeland, if you could send him an email and kind of run our plan by him and make sure that works for him, I'd appreciate it.
I would suggest we plan our first, our October meeting in Anchorage because we will have just done one in the Valley, and I think even if the Valley numbers are good, we know the Anchorage numbers are good, so we should still alternate because of the budget increase in the Valley. So,
oh yeah, no, definitely. God knows I don't want to spend that much money.
yeah, so maybe we can plan for the is it the Dome, Hadeland, in Anchorage for October?
Yeah, that totally works, and it kind of sounds like we're like if we could plan for like the second weekend in October, that would put it a month after the September one. Although, when is SenchiCon?
That's a good question.
It's the first weekend in October.
Okay, so that would actually be great if we did it the second weekend in October, because then if we have new players from SenchiCon, that'd be another great event for them to show up at. So that could be cool.
So one thing Aurora just
Are
brought
we
up.
doing a Northreach booth for SenchiCon? Have we decided that yet? Because we need to get the information in as soon as possible.
So the Lupin Moon officers in the previous reign secured a booth for Amped Guard purposes. I think it's a little unclear at this point in time.
In the previous reign, they weren't actually there. Being head of security at the time, I did note that Lupin Moon wasn't there. However, I donated half of my booth to Ravenstone so that we still had an Amped Guard presence there.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about they contacted the organizers of SenchiCon to secure a booth for the upcoming SenchiCon. But yeah, at the last SenchiCon, there was no booth because we didn't get one before the cutoff. So
make sure to keep up with them because they've been notoriously flaky and double booked a couple of vendor booths last year.
Yeah, so there is a booth space secured for Amped Guard purposes for the upcoming SenchiCon. My inclination is to make that a Northreach booth. It is to promote Amped Guard of Alaska across the state.
Awesome.
That probably needs like an autocrat or something.
I would love to autocrat SenchiCon because I'm not actually working there for once in the 10 years that I've been a part of it. Woo! and I know the people in charge, so yay.
Well, you've got, you know the people and you've got the ends. If that's a job that you want to do, I'd be happy to have you do it.
I am on it. I will make sure our space is secured and awesome. Do we need power to be there for any audiovisual needs or anything?
Let me get in touch. So Kraken was the one that was securing the booth in the previous reign. So he's
Oh
probably
shit,
best.
no, he's banned from actually being a vendor at the SenshiCon functions.
I don't know the details of that. I'm just
I can actually tell you the details of it, but he's
ask me
actually
the
not
details. It
allowed
have
to.
nothing to do with me, and I don't really care. But I'm just
Okay.
saying that, like, he was the person who was working that, in conjunction with Goran. So they
Okay,
would be the people who have the information as far as what we have secured at this point in time, and they would
Awesome.
be the people that I would direct you to.
Okay.
So let's get like a Facebook group chat going, Rage, and let's have you touch base with them, see where our reservation is at and standing, and go from there as soon as we can. Did I lose you all again?
Okay. No, I'm here. I will definitely get on that. As a matter of fact, in a few minutes, I will message Braxton, who is the president of the Senshi Corp, and make sure everything is set up.
Okay, let's conclude this meeting and then do all that, but definitely get in touch with him and then keep me in the loop on how that's going. And also, I apologize, guys, but I have to step away for a couple minutes. I will be right back.
No problem. So, Hadlin, how's those bedazzled swords coming?
I don't have any, and it makes me sad. I want one.
Atlas actually sent me a picture of him bedazzling one of his swords during that conversation. So I think Atlas is the one to go to on that one.
That sounds pretty epic. I'm not going to show him my boobs, though.
I don't think that's a requirement.
That's good.
So how's it going, Minnie?
Man, just crushing it as usual, basically.
So how's it feel to be regent? I mean monarch. I mean regent. I mean monarch.
Feels just like it did last reign. Just the best, obviously.
I'm feeling you there. I'm feeling you from last reign.
It's gonna be good though, because we're gonna recruit just 1 million newbies, and this reign is gonna be super dope.
awesome. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see all the new faces. It'll be great.
All right, I am back, and as far as I understand it, we have that topic under wraps, so we will be moving on to the next one, which was brought up to me here recently, and I was asked how I felt. We've announced the PvP teams being 4 members. Recently, I was asked how I felt about there being a 5th, an alternate member on a team, and I, excuse me, I personally am pretty ambivalent. I wouldn't really mind that so much, but I wanted to talk with you guys and see what your feelings are, or if you guys have any thoughts on that.
I'm obviously for it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely sounds good. Cause then we can form the Monarch Butterflies, right, Hadwin?
I
I
actually registered us today, and I registered us as Monarch Mayhem, and I would be
come on.
happy to go back and edit that team name if you guys, wanted.
No, I'm good with Monarch Mayhem.
I
I'm good
just
with that.
like to say that the Council of Crayons is an amazing name.
I do love it.
Yay,
but I
the
think
Council of Crayons.
I think I take myself too seriously to go with that name. Maybe I shouldn't, and maybe it would be therapeutic for me.
But it's fabulous.
As to your original question, sorry about that. I don't care how many like backup people, like you can make their teams be up to 20, but they can only have 4 people active, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't know that I would go that far, but I'm all right with 1 alternate.
I think it makes sense if you want to
If you okay.
people get to play it more often. If you need to have an alternate almost.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there's definitely perks to it, and it could be a very good thing. So, all right, it sounds like we all pretty much agree that that's a yes, and I won't spend a lot more time on that.
Yes.
Hey, thanks, Neil. I guess I should have waited for you, but the next topic I had was Reggie's. So the plan for that right now, I've posted the pictures that I posted in our Council of Crowns page. I've posted those pictures and a link to the announcement on the forums that explain how to earn Reggies onto the Chancellor's Council, so that the Chancellors can be printing those out and giving them out to players this weekend. It is something that we have the Chancellor's Council, essentially they're kind of our point people for running the whole Reggie system, our bankers, if you will. Were there any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about that?
Oh, I've got a comment. Ravenstone's gonna be rich on attendance only. I'm just saying.
Right? I was like, damn, Ravenstone. That just means that everybody needs to go to Ravenstone, because if I go play at Ravenstone, then I can get 3 Reggies too.
You can get 4 Reggies currently. I'm just saying, you can get 5 Reggies if you start showing up more people.
Right? Like, until dun Barony, then you'd only get 2.
Yeah, but until then, all the Reggies. I'm just gonna make it rain.
I gotta say, Icefire Bay is gonna be rolling in Reggie's, being that they're a Shire.
Right? They're going to be in the same boat as Ravenstone.
Our shires are going to be rolling in the dough. It's going to happen.
Who issues that specifically if we don't have a local chancellor?
Yeah, so chancellor and prime minister are terms we use interchangeably. It's your prime minister.
10-4, so she's got to be keeping track of it. One more thing to smack her with.
I mean, how you handle your inter-park business, I will not micromanage.
Just totally smack her with a stack of Reggies. It's awesome.
So anyway, does everyone understand the Reggie's program, and are we all on board with that? Is there something I can clarify?
Actually, a lot of people have been asking what Reggies are going to be used for around the different parks. I know that a couple Loop and Bin members asked me what they're going to be used for, and a couple of Ravenstone members have asked me what they're going to be used for, and I'm like, oh, well, lots of things. You know, you can get physical items, trinkets, stuff like that for PvP. But we wanted an official, you know, what they can be used for kind of thing.
So that's you're looking for like a specified items list that will be on the auction. Is that what you're after?
Yes, please.
Okay, so that's gonna fluctuate and vary month to month, and I will be posting the items and the minimum bid for each item probably a week to 2 weeks before each Principality Day. So anyone that brings those questions to you that wants specific items, just tell them to keep an eye on Facebook as Principality Day draws closer, and it will be posted.
Awesome. Okay.
So on that, do we have a list of things that will be available on the 21st?
Not currently, but after this meeting and after scheduling a Northreach Top 5 meeting, it is the next thing on my agenda, so I will in a day or two.
Cool, because I think that'll go a long way to answering those people's questions when they see it, like, actually happening. That'll also be a good thing to potentially drive attendance to the 21st, because it's a little bit, you know, we didn't have a lot of notice, and it will involve, you know, travel for a significant number of people. So I think all the things that we can possibly do individually and collectively to spur attendance to that will be super important.
I agree wholeheartedly, and that's why it's a high priority on my to-do list right now.
I'm making a thumbs up sign right now. You can't see it, but it's happening.
I'll imagine it.
I'm making them too.
I'm just sitting here.
I don't have a hard time picturing that one, Neil. All right. So the next thing we have, speaking of the 21st, we have been having discussion on Facebook. We need to get walls and foam and some other important things from Hadlin's house in Anchorage down to the event. I have a player here in Frozen Coast who is willing to drive up to Anchorage tomorrow to pick all of that stuff up and bring it back down. He has a trailer and a truck and all the goodness, and he's only requested
That's
about
awesome.
right. He's only requested $50 in gas for doing all that.
Pay the man.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
Hey,
within my
give him the
10%
money.
approval. So with your guys is okay. I was gonna give him the money.
Do it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sweet. I will pay him then. Moving right along. Dues.
Mostly because I'm so happy to not be the one driving them around. I'm super on board with paying somebody else to do it.
Okay, good to know.
Right.
So we had. I don't know if you guys all saw. I hope you did that post that I shared from Lady Aurora in the Council of Crowns Facebook page about dues, an interesting program thing. And instead of butchering her plan, I'm gonna actually let her explain it to you guys here real quick.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, I agree with your plan already.
I
Lucian, you
almost
sound so
certainly do
girly.
too.
Wonderful. So, I mean, I guess I
Can
could
you
explain
explain
it.
it to everybody out there in listening land?
Wonderful, I can do that. So, my current thought is that since we are transitioning into a new dues system where there's a set expiration date for everybody, no matter when you pay it, it would really suck for somebody to expire on the old system right before the reign ends and they have to pay a full reign's worth for only like a month or two. So, in that spirit, I wanted to say that everybody who expired, say before October or whatever, whenever you guys decide would be appropriate, they would all have to pay under the new system, and they would still have to pay for the rain. But if you expire after, say October or whenever, then your dues would be extended complimentarily by the principality, so that way everybody who expired after that.
You cut out there.
Sorry, Lucian's phone went dead on me. So anybody who expired after that date would have their dues extended, and that way everybody would then expire at the new expiration date and proceed standardly. I would also like to extend that to anybody whose dues expire further into 2017 or 2018, or however long they've paid their dues in advance.
When
I'm sorry?
I think the only word that I heard was when. And I agree. I think your plan is super awesome. I think we just, as a group, or I mean, maybe it should be up to you. I don't know. Just decide what date that cutoff date is.
Right.
I move that we make that date October 31st.
That was exactly my thought as well. I totally support that date.
Do you think this is something that needs to be brought before an all thing? Or is this something that Lucian and I would have the power to do together? Ouch.
What?
Yeah, it's a good question because technically it's outside of what our current governance documents call for, right? But it's also sort of more generous than the current documents. So I I guess technically the answer would be because it's outside of our governance documents, that would have to be approved by an all thing? I don't know.
I think that if we decide to go that route, we have many months to make it happen. I think it would be easy for us to pass prior to October 31st, and I think most people will think that's reasonable.
It's an interesting question on whether or not the Council of Crowns has the power to do that, and I'm not really sure. Is that I'm new on the council and don't really know, and maybe should go back and reread our documents so that I know. But as far as the board of directors, I think that this is it's almost a clerical decision, and it's well within the rights of a board to approve something like this. So on the BOD side of it, I think, yeah, we absolutely can. On the Council of Crowns, I'll defer to you guys.
I think it would probably be within our rights as well, and I don't think anyone would be upset by it. But at the same time, I think that sometimes it's with decisions like this that affect the entire populace, especially in their pocketbook, it doesn't hurt for us to just say, like, okay, well, you guys decide.
Yeah, it will never be a bad plan to ask the populace if they're okay with something we're about to do.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And honestly, we're all, every monarch of the state is actually here right now. And as an interesting point, if we're keeping all things scheduled for the second week of every month, that means this weekend is an all thing weekend. We could
Wasn't announced a week beforehand.
we could hypothetically get that approved this weekend, or as Josh said, we have till October 31st. It can always go on the next all thing as well, whatever you guys are comfortable with.
Do we have an agenda out for the Principality All thing that would theoretically be happening this weekend?
Negative. This would be the only item because it was one of those things that just kind of fell through the cracks as we were trying to handle a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, you or Deli are responsible for holding all things, so just push it off till next week and add that as an agenda item.
we could do that too. We could do this month's 1 week late and then add that to it.
Yeah, I mean, like with everyone like coronation having just happened, all like crazy stuff, I don't think anyone's going to be upset that we pushed out the date a week.
Aurora did just have a good point. That would put it happening with the Nanilchik State Fair, and that might be a little more hectic of a situation than you want for an all thing.
That's fair.
That's
Honestly,
true.
I don't think that it's gonna hurt anything if we just have this ratified at next month's all thing.
Oh, that
Yeah,
should
I
be
think
fair.
September would be fine.
I'm okay with that. I actually did announce that there's going to be an all thing next weekend.
Sweet.
You are massively. on top of
Ravenstone
it.
is doing its budget all thing this weekend.
Were we gonna talk about that as a council?
So, with the new corpora, it states that we, as a Council of Crowns, will provide a annual budget in February, which is actually the end of this local reign. So, to the best of my understanding, budgets will still be done per the local park for this one last reign, the way they have been done. Hazel, push to talk is your friend.
So typically, the way that we've done that is, we've done like a council review of budgets before our populace has voted on them, just to make sure that like all of our budgets are sort of in alignment and moving towards the same direction. It's so totally not required in any. It has not been required in any previous corpora. It's just something we've done as sort of a, I don't know, matter of practice.
Yeah, no, we're going to submit it on the Council of Crowns as well as putting it on the forums what our budget is as we did last time we did it. And then in February the new monarch will be required to move forward with the budgetary things that we're going to be doing from now on with the new corpora.
Are you guys voting on it this weekend?
Yes. I was going to have it into you guys probably.
Do you have it? I mean, has it been posted for your people at all yet?
It hasn't been posted for our people yet because my top 5 has been going back and forth about who's using DAP and if we can cross-use DAP for projects and duct tape and fabric and such. So we're trying to slim it down right now. We should have it done tomorrow.
So with something like that, it's really best practice if your populace has at least a week to review it so that they can ask you any questions or whatnot before the all thing. And then especially, especially if it's also going to be, read and commented on by the Council of Crowns, I would recommend that you hold off on that all thing for a couple weeks to give the council time to, review it and do their budgets, and then give your people about a week to read it.
No, that's fair. It'll give my regent, my champions, some time to figure out who's spending what and who's cross-using what.
All right, so yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Then we will go forward with that.
Lucian, I heard say my name in there somewhere, and you said something after that. What was that? I keep cutting out.
I just said that push to talk is your friend because you still had your microphone on.
Oh, my whole system just isn't working right.
I gotcha. Yeah, I was just giving you a hard time. It wasn't a big deal. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is an idea that was brought before me, and I rather liked it, and a couple other people that have heard about it have really liked it. but it's something that I feel definitely requires the approval of this council, and that would be to create a Northreach Paragons Circle. And the idea behind it would be that it would be essentially it would be ran and managed very similarly to a Kingdom's Knights Circle, in which all the Paragons of Northreach are involved, and will be a voice to any monarchs of recommendations for new Paragons, and always keeping their eye out for who's going to be a Paragon next, and just the kind of things the Knight Circle does for Knights would be Paragons doing for Paragons within Northreach.
Nice.
I think that sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I guess.
Sorry about
like,
that. I
can't
had a
hurt
family
anything.
emergency.
I like the Paragon Circle.
Is that
I
like
love the idea of a Paragon Circle.
what would the process look like? Because that would be is that us amending the admin manual or us amending the bylaws?
I think yes on both.
I
I
don't.
think it's just in the admin manual.
Yes, it shouldn't affect the bylaws at all. It basically, we would need to add a line to the admin manual somewhere. I'd have to look at it again to figure out exactly where that would go. But we'd basically just add a line in there about, or a little section about the Paragon Circle and what it is. And then in practice, I mean, it's basically just going to be like a Facebook page where Paragons talk Paragon business. It's nothing super elaborate or over in depth.
Would the monarchs still have the final say on the Paragons? Or
Yes.
at least advise them?
Yes. It would work the other way. The Paragon Circle would be advisors to monarchs for Paragonship. We are not in any way. The Paragon Circle will have no real power.
Okay, so they'll just be like, hey, this person should be a Paragon, and then we'll all think about it.
Correct.
Okay.
It's literally just a community for Paragons. It's nothing elaborate, special. It has no power. It's just a good way to uniform the way we decide on Paragons going forward.
The other thing we could do is just sort of like do that in practice for a little bit and see how it goes before we admin manual to sort of officialize it. But I mean, if we're talking about a Facebook group where Paragons of Northreach are invited to participate in it, like, we could just do that now and then decide at a later date if it's something we wanted to codify in the admin manual.
I like that.
No, totally. That's a very good idea. So just so we're all on the same page, the Paragon Circle is approved by this council to be done in practice for a little bit and then potentially codified into the admin manual at a later date.
Yeah,
Aye.
so like pilot.
Should we set a deadline of some sort just so we have something rough so we don't end up sort of in the same boat that we have in the past where we just like, well, that's tradition, that's how we've done it forever.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, heads up at least, a month or two before would be nice.
Dungeon crawl?
That's a great idea.
I'm sorry, you were really quiet. What was the idea?
Dungeon crawl?
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
Okay. Great. So with that wrapped up, the next thing, oh man, I forget. I'm sorry, guys. I forget which one of you brought this up, but somebody had said something about wanting to know how we were going to be handling the approval of underage players going forward.
That was me.
Would you like to talk about that at all? Loudly?
So with the new governance documents being ratified and adopted, the way that we approve the inclusion of underage participants in combat activities has now changed, right? So previously it was the individual park monarch had the authority to make those exemptions, and technically at this point in time, it's this body's authority to do that. So we have underage players who are currently playing, who do not currently have approval from the Council of Crowns. So we need to address that so that they're not operating in limbo and that they know whether or not they're approved or not approved to be participating on the battlefield.
So my understanding on how that would be done going forward is that that player's local monarch would come before this council stating, my player, insert name here, is this age. However, I feel that they are okay for combat. Short bit about why, whether they know the kid or they've seen the kid sparring with other kids or whatever their reasoning. And then this council would then vote on that player.
I actually recently, excuse me, sorry. I recently had a younger player, Will from Astral Winds, come to Ravenstone. Him and his mom are now members in Ravenstone, and he wanted to desperately play on the field. And I told him, I said, you know what? I understand you've been playing up in Astral Winds, and that you're good friends with them, and that I've got a couple of letters of recommendation from you. But I'd like to see you pass a Reeves test first, so you have some good working. So I know you have good working knowledge of the rules as a whole. So that might be something to think about too. Just a recommendation for the other park monarchs that you might want to say, hey, they've passed a Reeves test. That would be a good step forward in showing the rest of the Council of Crowns that these kids are actually willing to go the extra step to be able to play on our field safely.
So that, in theory, yes, that sounds awesome. I think that if any local monarch could bring forth a candidate, an underage player that they feel should be able to play and is able to say, this player passed a Reeves test, that would go, a long way towards getting this council's approval. But I don't know that it's anything that I would feel comfortable like requiring.
I think it's a super great suggestion, and I totally support it. Like, I'm definitely gonna keep that in mind with underage players who are looking for exemptions from my park for sure. It's a really good practice.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
it'd be a great thing to tell you guys, hey, this kid passed a Reeves test, he's been shadow reaving, he's been sparring off to the side with some of our players, he seems like a good kid, he's safe. But that passing the Reeves test is that extra oomph of they really want to play and really want to become a productive member of our park.
Absolutely. I think it's like I said, I think it's definitely something that shows merit for the player. And I when I say that it's not something I want to require, I literally just mean I don't want to make it a requirement. I think it's a great idea and I totally support it being done. I just don't necessarily want to require it to be done.
Yeah, I think that's smart too.
I'm actually a little concerned that here we're asking younger kids to do more than we ask of our regular players. And while knowing the rules well enough to pass the Reeves test is awesome. I think that we need to be more concerned with their physical ability to be on the field, and I'm just not sure that addresses that concern.
Well,
Absolutely. That's part of why I say I don't want to make it a requirement, Neal, is for that right
oh
there.
yeah,
And I'm not saying in any way that, he passed Reeves test, must be good. Obviously we're going to want to know the physical, the kid's ability to handle the physical side, the combat and stuff as well. I didn't mean to imply that the Reeves test would be enough. It's just definitely a good step.
yeah, no, it is. It also shows that they have, because sometimes younger kids don't have a working knowledge of their their limbs. Sometimes they're a little gangly. At least if they, I'm not going to say make it a requirement. I'm just saying that in my park, that's the way we're going to start handling it, because it shows that they actually understand the repercussions of, say, being kind of a jerk on the field or hitting too hard. It means they've read the rules and they understand that. And I understand that we don't require it for our older members. I think Ravenstone probably has the most reef certified people right now. But we don't require it for our older members. I'm not going to require it for a kid, but I'm going to tell them it's probably a good idea.
So, is now an appropriate time to bring forward an underage candidate for approval?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I would like to do that. The underage player in particular here is Sparky, Anna. She has been playing with Lupa Moon for I think it's been a year now. Hakeem was the monarch at the time, so 9 months. And she has demonstrated herself to be very capable and safe on the field. She knows her sort of limitations. She doesn't actively engage in super heavy combat. She's very field aware. She has removed herself from situations that look sort of questionable. She's shown very good judgment. She has a very clear understanding of the rules. I feel that she does not pose a risk or a danger to the organization at all. Additionally, whether or not this is something that we should consider or not, her parent and legal guardian is also very familiar with the rules and understands clearly the risks involved in being on the field in combat. And I feel that she is an excellent candidate for being allowed to continue to participate in combat activities within the organization.
I have actually been on the field with Sparky, and I totally agree. I think she handled herself very well, and it was very responsible. Like you said, knew her limits, knew where to be, where not to be, and I would be comfortable with that.
No, totally. I've been on the field with her too, and she's definitely shown growth in the time that she's grown up in Amtgard. I've got to watch her grow up in Amtgard for a little bit, and she has definitely got a good understanding of the rules and has removed herself from questionable fighting circumstances, and she's a good kid. So I would definitely say yes.
Where I don't know her by her name, I may know her, having seen her at events. But I do feel comfortable in your guys' assessment of the situation, and I support it.
Thoughts, Minnie?
Yeah, I mean, good. Go bananas. Wouldn't matter what I said at this point because you got it.
Well, it would, because I'm pretty sure it takes a unanimous vote.
No.
Does it take a unanimous vote?
It does not. At one point in time, there was a draft that had a requirement of a unanimous vote. However, that was edited, and it does not require a unanimous vote in the approved versions of the documents.
Okay, good to know.
However, I need to pull up the current doc because I can't remember if it's 2/3 or just a majority.
That I know it's 2/3.
Hazel, you have thoughts on this particular player? Did you hear all of it? Apparently she's still having technical difficulties.
I vote aye if Hadelin is in favor of her. I have not worked with this player on the field, so I can't personally speak to her.
So cool. Even though it is no longer required, it is actually a unanimous vote of the council to approve Sparky for combat.
Great. That will make it very easy when it comes Saturday and she wants to know whether or not she can play or not.
You get to tell her yes.
That's super exciting. So a couple of different things I think we should all just be aware of with that. So previously, I just personally had a rule that I wasn't allowing underage players on the field for principality events, just because there's so many more. There's more people than they're typically used to playing with, and fighters that are of unknown skill. So that's something that we should probably just, I don't know, have some chatting about. Or maybe we do that on a player by player basis, or maybe there's people underage players that we approve for local exemption but not necessarily for large event exemption. I don't know how we work that.
I would rather it be something unified. I mean, whether that's underage players get approval but only at local days. What I don't want to do is have some underage players that can play at Principality Day. However this council wants to work it, I'm fine going either direction. But I would like it to either be, if they're approved by this council, then they can play all the time, or no underage members on Principality Day. I just don't want to do the sum, you know?
Yeah, no, that's completely fair.
Yeah, it opens up the possibilities for like sort of administrative headache and bad feelings, and both of those are definitely best to be avoided. So
Exactly.
I would also like to point out that even though it's not a Principality Day, it's not unusual for us down here to have 8 players show up from the line, and all of a sudden you have a whole different playing field than you expected. So it's just because we're saying it's not a Principality Day, it's a local day, doesn't necessarily mean that there's not interesting things happening that you'd expect.
that is super true.
I also apologize.
Really
I keep missing about half of what's said. I'm having a really hard time with connectivity, so please, guys, just hang in there with me.
So basically, at the moment, we're just trying to decide if how we're handling approved underage players. Sorry, at Principality Days, whether we're going to make exemptions where we allow underage players to play only local, or oh, we lost her again. There she is. Can you hear me, Hazel?
Yes, every time I talk, it boots me off.
Got you. So yeah, we're just trying to decide right now if we're making this exception for underage players a local only thing, or also for Principality Days.
And maybe that's something that we just say that the approval is approval unless there's some type of issue and we need to revisit it. I don't know.
No, I'm in agreement with Hadelin on that one.
Yeah, I think we always have the right to reevaluate if a player is safe on the field for themselves or for others. And if we approve someone and then we find that was maybe a mistake, then we can go back and readdress the issue.
Absolutely. So, just again, for clarification's sake, it sounds like everyone's kind of on the page of if this council approves an underage player, they are approved regardless. Yes?
I vote that we approve people for Principality and for local events.
Yep.
All of the above.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's much easier at the end of the day for us to go in and make one-off exceptions for those that can't anyway.
Yeah, once we start splitting hairs, it's just a pain in the butt. I'd like to see that our players get a taste of, playing with everybody, not just, their local park.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in favor of that.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I know-
go ahead, Adeline.
No, I think you're probably going to say the same thing as me, so go for it.
So I was just gonna say, so we do need to make sure, Monarchs, if any of you have players under 14, that they need to be brought before, much like Sparky just was, so that we can get them approved. Even underage players who've been approved previously need to be reevaluated now with the new bylaws. So please, please, please let us know if you have under 14 players that you think are good for combat, so that we can get them approved.
So I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm going to, and I would advise other people, check with your chancellor or prime minister and see if there's anyone that you didn't know was under 14, because that could be possible in Frozen Coast, but I don't think we have any right now.
If it's okay with you guys, in the interest of brevity, I would like to do my 6 and post them to the Council of Crowns and allow you to see them, and then you can actually review them and their picture, and many of you may have actually played with them. And that way I don't have to sit here and go through them one by one. I also wondered if anyone had the chance to look at the officers posting on Icefire Bay of the alternative approval forms. We talked about another way to do approval forms. And what we did is we went and we found approval forms locally for a fairly dangerous wilderness adventure trip that goes on regularly down here in Homer, where they take kids age 8 to 16 across the bay for extended periods of time, which I felt was fairly comparable to an Amtgard battle, and the release forms that were associated with that.
So, to the best of my knowledge, Amtgard of Alaska has all those forms for that, and we wouldn't. They should all be available on the akmtgard.com website.
She's talking about the temporary guardianship for the people under 14 that was talked about last term.
We were looking for ways for them to have the temporary guardianship just on the specific days that they were going to be doing Amtgard, so that adults from Icefire Bay weren't just taking sort of carte blanche temporary guardianship of these children, even when it was outside of Amtgard activities. I am no longer a member of that officer group, Hazel, so I believe that I added Lucian to it, but as the Principality Monarch, he would be the only one of this group that would have access to that. So if you added it to the Council of Crowns Facebook group, then we'd all be able to review it, and it may be something useful for other situations as well. And we could kind of give it a look, because that sounds really promising.
I would be happy to do that. And I have to tell you, it's not temporary guardianship. I've never actually seen that done anywhere else. It's a different style form than temporary guardianship. And we have had a couple of parents go absolutely wiggy at us at the idea of doing temporary guardianship. Well, fortunately, those have also been parents that it turns out we didn't really want to deal with. So, and Lucian, I think we've brought that up. I know Rowan talked back and forth with you about one specifically at the last event, but I will post that to the Council of Crowns. And thank you for clarifying that. It helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I am on the Icefire Bay officers page. I have not seen this form, but yeah, if you get it posted to the Council of Crowns, we'll definitely review it. And it may be something that could be pretty awesome, and then we can talk about it at our meeting next week.
Next week.
Or we can talk about it on Facebook too.
Well, yeah, if you want to be logical and simple, we can do that.
10-4, and I'll get letters posted up about those 6 kids too, again, so that you don't have to go through it one by one.
That also sounds pretty awesome.
Right, that sounds really amazing, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Way we can vote one.
Be sure to number the kids when you post them so that as we vote, we can vote 1, yes or no, 2, yes or no, yada yada.
Good point. Thank you.
You are welcome. All right, so at this time, that brings us to the original end of the agenda, but then we added the note to return to current announcements in case any questions were not covered. So at this time, I would like to invite you guys to ask me any questions or ask each other any questions that you still have.
I had only one question, and that was regarding William for Ravenstone. Are we seeking council approval for him to participate, or are you waiting
Not
on his?
just yet. I want to see how he does
Okay.
in Ravenstone because I've never fought with him on the field yet. But as soon as I get a feel for him, I will be bringing it towards council, but not until then.
You're,
Okay.
you're,
He understands that.
so
Okay.
when you say you want to fight with him, you don't mean like you're not going to allow him to be participating in battle games, are you?
No, sir, I will not. Not until I spar with him a bit and I see how he does with the rules and everything. Like I said, I told him that I'd like to see him at least attempt a Reeves test so he understands the rules.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you.
I think the rest of the questions that I had previously we've covered in the discussion, so I'm happy.
I have no questions at this time.
It is past my bedtime at this time.
Yeah, guys, this was almost a 2-hour meeting. I apologize. Again, hopefully with the whole, for the next few weeks, we're meeting every week and then having 2 meetings a month. This should not happen again unless something extensive comes up. As I said earlier, I agree with Hadeland. I'm a fan of 1-hour meetings. I thank you guys for bearing with us for this long. And I will talk to you all on Facebook/Thursday.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
It was great to see everybody here tonight. It's so awesome to have everybody in one council room and all talking about cool, awesome, good things. Yay, us.
Huzzah!